College basketball season is back. Oh, yeah, baby. It officially counts tonight, the first game of the season for the Duke University men's basketball team. Let's talk all about it on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on this Monday, November 6th, 2023. College basketball season is back tonight. The first official game of the Duke season as they get set to take on Dartmouth. We'll talk about that with our good pal Jordan Mann when he joins us here on the show a little bit later. It's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, as always, for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and first watch each and every day. A special shout out to all of our everydayers out there. We have been waiting a long time since that unfortunate, sad defeat against Tennessee in the NCAA tournament a year ago, just waiting for something real around Duke basketball to come back, and it's here tonight. Each and every game, we'll be breaking it down right here on Locked On Blue Devils. So give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the podcast feed. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at LO_Blue Devils, and follow me there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. All right, enough of that. Let's get to it. Let's bring on our good friend Jordan Mann, who's here with us now. And my friend, what a perfect day it is. College basketball is back, and you and I, both crazy hoop heads, we love this time of year.
It is the best time of year. This is my annual tweet. I've already tweeted out that I missed the 24-hour tip-off. I wish that college basketball would bring it back. There is nothing better than watching midnight basketball, 2 a.m. basketball, 4 a.m. basketball, 6 a.m. basketball. I'll never forget the last time that happened. I was at App State, and me and my buddy pulled an all-nighter and just watched college basketball for legit 24 hours. It was the best day of my life, and I wish they would bring that back.
And we need it back, man. Unfortunately, we got to settle with some a little bit earlier tip-offs in the afternoon later today. Of course, Duke, a late one tonight. You can see it on the screen there if you're watching us on YouTube, 9 p.m. Eastern. Duke will get going on the ACC network immediately following the UNC game. So the Tar Heels, a couple of miles up the road, they start their season at 7 p.m. Eastern. Duke to follow on the ACC network, taking on Dartmouth here. So just beyond excited for this season to get here. We've talked a lot about how important it is that Duke has 4 returners that played significant minutes from a year ago coming back on this year's team. And I think it's going to be up to those 4 to kind of set the tone early in the season for what Duke can be this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're a Duke fan, you watched the UNC Pembroke scrimmage. You got to the exhibition. You got to like what you saw from, Tyrese Proctor came out hot. The one thing about him, man, he always had a pretty shot last year. It was just a little inconsistent behind the three-point line. He hit 5 threes, I think, in the first half against UNC Pembroke. And if he's going to be that efficient behind three-point line with his facilitating ability and his
Terrifying.
scoring, oh my God, JJ, he's going to. I say he's the best point guard in the country. If he's doing that, he is by far the best point guard in the country. So I'm excited to watch the backcourt again for Duke. And Reeves didn't play against Pembroke in the exhibition, so I wonder if he's okay, if he's healthy enough to play against Dartmouth. So I would love to see Reeves get some minutes as a big guy.
Yeah, and just seeing guys come back for another season. Jaden Schutt in that company as well. Again, we'll get to the newcomers making their debut here in just a moment. But Proctor was so deadly from outside in that exhibition. Hopefully that continues this season. Mark Mitchell doing his thing, attacking the rim, cutting. One of the best cutters that I think we've seen play at Duke in quite some time. And Mark Mitchell doesn't really have the ball in his hands too frequently to put his head down and go to work himself. But, man, if he sees an open lane, he's going right after it.
Yeah, he has a high IQ of where to be without the ball. And that's something you really can't teach. It's almost more instinctual. And Mark Mitchell is very good at that. And he's very good on the glass. And for a Duke team that's going to be relatively small if Flip plays the 5 any, that's Mitchell's strong suit is crashing the rim, and I think Duke's going to be okay with him playing the 4 if they want to go 3 guards.
And in so many ways, it feels important that that's a player you have on your roster when you're worried about, okay, there's only one basketball. We got to share shots as a team. Someone's got to be a little bit, I don't know that passive is the word, but kind of waiting to pick their spots almost to kind of get involved. And it feels perfectly suited for Mark Mitchell to do that. We remember the big 3-point shot he had against Notre Dame in the regular season last year to kind of ice that game away. Big time buckets. Obviously missed him in that Tennessee game in the NCAA tournament to close out the season. But I personally have not been giving Mark Mitchell enough love this offseason. Need to do a better job of doing that. Hold me accountable, Duke basketball fans, because I want to make sure that guy feels loved and appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty big deal that he was coming back when he announced he was coming back. But in a weird way, it feels like he went on the back burner after he announced he came back, because it's like Flip came back, your two Proctor's coming back, this recruiting class is coming in, and then it's like, oh, also Duke has Mark Mitchell. But like you said, there's going to be plenty of games for Duke where he is the X factor, where it's going to come down to a huge rebound, a crucial tip in. Mark Mitchell's going to be around the ball when it matters most for Duke.
Let's make it happen. Excited to see Duke basketball back in action later tonight, taking on Dartmouth. Let's talk a little bit about Duke's opponent from the Ivy League, and we'll do that after our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Athletic Brewing. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, that are full of flavor and well-crafted, just like your full-strength beer. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft, non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden, sours, and more. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. Fit for all times, so you can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity even more enjoyable. There are also no hangovers ever. How awesome is that? You can find Athletic in-store, online, or at bars around the country. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or go to athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off your online order. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Moving forward here in today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann, who is at Duke FB Fans on Twitter for his football coverage. Shout out to those guys for their Thursday night win against Wake Forest. They've got a big one coming up on Saturday at UNC. More football talk coming for you later in the week. Also follow him on Twitter at Coach J-Man. But we're talking about Dartmouth here today. Our friends over at FanDuel have the Blue Devils favored by 27.5 to open up this college basketball season. So a game in which Duke should win, Jordan. We should not be on upset alert for the number 2 team in the country, but excited to see how well Duke can play in this first game of the year.
Yeah, not upset alert. Game 1 for Duke. Knock on wood, but I do like Duke at that number 2. So shout out to FanDuel, but yeah, I do like them at 27 because Dartmouth does. I know you'll deep dive into them a little bit more, but their leading scorer, who was also leading rebound last year, transferred to Loyola Chicago. So they have a couple guys returning that are 3-point shooters. Both average 12 a game. That's the only other 2 double-digit scorers that are returning. So it'll be a healthy warm-up for Duke going into the season before it really gets going for Duke.
Anytime you get a chance to play an Ivy League competitor, I know we've seen a couple of matchups even in the NCAA tournament. I'm thinking about a game against Yale a few seasons ago that Duke had. Obviously, you had the connection there with Tommy Amaker at Harvard. This Duke team, however, has never played Dartmouth before. First time ever meeting between these two teams. A really exciting moment, I would imagine, for some of those Ivy League guys who they're going to walk into Cameron Indoor Stadium tonight. They're going to get the full Cameron Crazies effect. And, best of luck, as Duke's going to be one of the top teams in the entire country. Again, knock on all wood possible, but this is ultimately what should happen when you look at a game like tonight.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's going to be a great experience for the Dartmouth players to play in Cameron. I looked last year at their schedule to see if they had another big Division I team that they played, and they did not. So this is the first time, at least in a couple of years, for Dartmouth that are going to be playing at a venue like Duke. And it's going to be a good atmosphere for them, but I do think Duke rolls against Dartmouth, like I said, and starts the year off 1-0.
Last season, Dartmouth was 10-18, 6-8 in the Ivy League, as the Big Green this season were picked to finish 7th. So towards the bottom of that conference. So taking a look at what they could do this season, Ryan Cornish is an outside shooter to be on the lookout for. And then anytime you're looking at matchups between kind of Duke and Group of 5, non-Power 5, Big 6 teams in college basketball, one of the first things you always jump to, Jordan, is the big size difference oftentimes between these two lineups. The projected starters for Dartmouth, 6'4", 6'3", and then 3 different guys who are 6'8". Meanwhile, Duke's got a 6'9" Mark Mitchell, who's going to play a good bit. Kyle Filipowski at 7 feet tall himself. A lot of bigs coming off the bench for Duke. So big-time size discrepancy in a lot of ways.
Size discrepancy is one thing, and athleticism is another thing. That Duke, like Mark Mitchell, will be the 5 for them at 6'9", and with his wingspan athleticism. And there's talks that he should just be the 3 at Duke. So yeah, that's as a guy who's repping my boys Ferrum as we play ECU today. Shout out to you, getting paid to lose, but it's fine. And my point being, I've been on the court where I was the small team against the big team, and it's just going to be one of those days where Duke's going to have a lot easier buckets around the rim, in the paint, and several offensive rebounds for Duke as well.
First time ever, again, Duke taking on Dartmouth, the Big Green, who feature Ryan Cornish, who shot 40% from the three-point line last season. Their leading returning scorer at 12.5 points per game. Dusan Neskovic wasn't far behind at 12.2 points per game last season. So a couple of names that we'll hear tonight. But again, this should be a game that Duke should feel good about. You talk about coming into a big gym, the lights, the action. Oh my gosh, we're Dartmouth and now we're playing against Duke. What that could feel like. We also need to talk about these Duke newcomers who are going to be playing their first college basketball game. When you talk about the 4 freshmen, Jared McCain appears likely to start for Duke in that 5th starter spot, but we will see the likes of Caleb Foster, TJ Power, Sean Stewart, I would imagine, throughout tonight's game. And welcome to college basketball. They finally get to experience what it's all about to play in a real game wearing Duke across their chest.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a game where Jon Scheyer is going to have the bench go pretty deep, pretty early too, just to get the guys' feet wet pretty quickly of the college basketball life. And I'm curious to see how Sean Stewart does, because I know count out of craziness, you can chalk it up for being counted out of craziness, but he was sped up in that a lot of times. And so I'm curious to see now against Dartmouth, does he slow down and let the game come to him when he's in for, say he plays 8 minutes tonight? How solid are those 8 minutes for him? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a confidence booster for these freshmen. But hey, I can play with these guys. I know it's Dartmouth, but at the end of the day, they're 18. This is their first college game. There's going to be nerves. So I'm looking forward to seeing them.
And you want to get this one out of the way because, again, big picture, we know what's looming following Dartmouth back-to-back games. Friday night at home against Arizona, and then next Tuesday, 8 days from today, we've got that big one in the Champions Classic against Michigan State. So kind of get right, get your feet back under you, get more into that playing condition. How much is that as well? Just trying to get into the rhythm of what those media timeouts are like. It's one thing to be in practice, but just kind of getting used to the breaks in a college game.
Yeah, it takes you a second to get accustomed to the flow of the game as a freshman, because you realize, hey, at the under 16, it's a breather. Under 12, it's a breather, which is nice. But when you come from high school, there is no media timeout. So it's just go, go, go. So to get your rhythm going, to stop and start, is something that they're going to get accustomed to against Dartmouth and get the rotation going. And then, like you said, when they play Arizona Friday, it's going to be up even bigger notch. And after, look, the first week of the season, it's going to be rust. It just is. We have 18-year-olds. Like, that it's going to happen. They're talented, but they need to get it going. And Dartmouth's the perfect opponent to get it going.
Duke and Dartmouth tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on the ACC Network. Make sure you check it out. And, of course, tomorrow we'll have a full recap for you as to what happens. We'll start to look ahead to Arizona. But on the other side of this break, we'll talk big picture. Duke starting another college basketball season. Year 2 of the Jon Scheyer era. What else do we need to know? We discuss that after one more break here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. These days, every new hire can feel like such a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Closing out today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils alongside Jordan Mann, I'm JJ Jackson. Duke basketball starts another season. They had the big-time win against UNC Pembroke in their exhibition last week. Now a game tonight against Dartmouth. That's for real. Arizona in a big non-conference matchup on Friday. But we would be remiss if we did not mention briefly a big development over the weekend. Yet another commitment for Jon Scheyer and the Brotherhood. Patrick Gaba II from Paul VI up there in Virginia becomes the 5th commit in the class of 2024. What an amazing grab for Jon Scheyer. And boy, oh boy, he is on an absolute run in the recruiting world.
Yeah, I mean, I think he literally takes no days off, JJ. Like that guy, Duke plays, Duke practices, Duke gets a commit for the next season. Like, it's unbelievable what he's done on the recruiting trail. Shout out to the whole staff. I mean, you can't just credit the big guy. Everybody out there that's behind the scenes is doing an absolute fantastic job for Duke. And yeah, now they got a big man to go along with Cooper Flagg and Isaiah and a couple other guys. So it's going to be the class is just going to be very, very deep, JJ. And there might be one more guy coming. So allegedly there might be one more. So we're going to see if there's any more good news for Duke later in the recruiting process.
Yeah, we got to see, of course, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe still out there. Harper, of course, linked with Rutgers as well. I know VJ Edgecombe has an official visit coming up this weekend at St. John's. We'll see how Rick Pitino factors into this kind of recruiting sweepstakes against Duke. Not the first time Pitino's been trying to recruit guys, also considering the Duke Blue Devils. But you saw some reports yesterday about this recruiting class maybe not being as solid as one might think. Isaiah Evans immediately tweets that he's not going anywhere. People are curious what's the status of Con Knipple, whether or not he wants to reconsider going to Duke and that sort of thing. I don't know anything. I just do know that minutes will be a little hard to come by when you're putting together as talented of a roster as Duke has got. But let's hang tight until someone actually makes a decision. No need to kind of worry about this. We've got a new year that's tipping off tonight.
Yeah, we have a New Year's tipping off tonight. And if I had to guess, whoever the guy is, as process of elimination, it might be Con, because on the commitments post, Darren Harris was also in a Blue Devils uniform on a throwback when they were playing together. So that kind of eliminates Darren from that as well. And so if Edgecombe does commit to Duke, he's a shooting guard, and then you might see a domino fall. But like you said, that's in the future. But right now it's Duke against Dartmouth, and that's all next season. And this season is literally today. And that's what Duke fans need to focus on, is how Duke's going to look today. And I think Jeremy Roach is going to really lead this offense to a crisp performance.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Roach back at it. Year 4 doing his thing out there. Duke, of course, is 91-27 all-time in season openers. 22 straight years that Duke has started the year off with a win, as Duke returns 60 points per game from last year's team. You talk about production. That's the most returning points by a Duke team since the 2008-2009 season. And they also returned 4 players with 30-plus starts for the first time since 2000-2001, when Duke returned Shane Battier, Carlos Boozer, Nate James, and Jay Williams. And might I remind people what that team did? They went on to win a national championship game. So love that the Duke media relations staff pointed out kind of those stats for us to talk about here. Terrific, terrific stuff that Duke's got so much experience coming back this season.
Yeah, I love that tidbit. That's why I raised my fingers like, yeah, what did that thing do? You got it, JJ. But yeah, that is the 60 points per game returning stat is a fantastic stat because it makes you realize that, hey, one and done era for Duke there's been so much turnover over a decade now at Duke that's an underrated stat that 60 plus points per game are coming back. And my college coach and a lot of college coaches always told me that you see the jump in production from your freshman to sophomore year. Then the numbers are more efficient. Proctor already looks that way against UNC Pembroke, that his shot's more consistent from three-point range. You saw Roach from his freshman year to sophomore year. He took that giant leap. And so if Flip can take that leap, Mitchell can take that leap, and Tyrese Proctor can take that leap, oh my gosh. Like it might – I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm gonna enjoy game by game, JJ, but that's a good trend for Duke right now coming in this season.
Yeah, it's the perfect formula for a dominant Duke basketball team, which we certainly do love. So again, first game of the season, excited to see this Duke team back in action under the big lights. I'm really curious how deep of a rotation Duke is going to have this year. That answer will not come this evening in a game that Duke is favored by nearly 4 touchdowns on the hardwood there. We're not going to know for sure how many guys are going to factor in. But a game like tonight, I'd love to see 10, 11 guys get possibly, 5-6 minutes each out there on the floor, some being well more than that. But yeah, I'd love to see the bench go really deep tonight just to get those guys in a little bit of a rhythm.
Yeah, tonight would be a night where I could see Duke getting a deep bench. But like you said, I will go a step further that you will not know Duke's bench rotation until probably January. Like that's just how it is. Like Duke might go 10 guys tonight because they can, but then against Arizona, maybe Scheyer has a tight lid. They go 7. Like there is a rhyme or reason, but he might just play 7 guys Friday because he's trying to win with who he knows, and then he'll keep going fluctuating through November and December, and then January, it's like, okay, I have a good feel for a rotation. So if Duke's worried about minutes, Duke fans, I should say, worried about minutes for certain guys, I would not worry about it until January, basically, is when the real season is locked in from a coaching perspective.
Well, let's see what happens tonight. Duke basketball is here. Jordan, it's always good to talk about it with you. Excited to watch the game a little bit later this evening, and excited that we're going to have plenty more basketball chats coming to folks' YouTube channels in the days and weeks to come. You're a busy man at Duke FB Fans, the Big J, Little J show. Kind of tell us all about the work you've got now that the new season is here.
Yeah, so the Big J and Little J show, right now we're still talking about Duke football previewing against Duke UNC. We'll record tomorrow and have it out. And then we will be having a Duke basketball episode to kick off the season after the Dartmouth game to preview what's yet to come for Duke. And I'm going to start having some interviews with some guys that are affiliated around the Duke program, basketball, football-wise, and maybe even in the ACC. And so I'm excited to see where it goes for the Big J and Little J show. I'm going to have a lot of ACC content for all ACC fans, so I'm looking forward to it. And I appreciate you having me on, being able to promote the show, JJ.
Yeah, there's word out there, Jordan, that the Big J and Little J show might feature a JJ at some point in the near future. So I'm glad we're going to be able to make that happen, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to being the one to ask you the question rather than you to me. It feels great to switch tables, to switch seats.
No kidding. Well, have a great week. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, that's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to do it for our show here today. Enjoy Duke basketball. It's back. We've waited a long time for it. Soak it all in and have a little bit of fun tonight. We'll be back with you tomorrow to talk about everything that happens inside Cameron Indoor Stadium later tonight. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.